So, we didn't make a video last week or Saturday
You missed us, right?
because Steve had a medical emergency.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but yes,
Never.
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 Should never happen again. But we had a brief medical emergency.
I called 911 for the first time in my life.
Wow.
Eight big, strong firemen, paramedics came into our house. 8.
8. Yes, that's a response.
So we'll have numerous videos to talk about that, but we've been working on our series on senior housing. We did one video on apartments, and this is just because it's from our perspective, the seniors. It's
Right.
not necessarily senior apartments. It's regular apartments was our first one, and we did tiny homes.
Yep.
And now today we're going to talk about retirement communities.
Retirement communities, yes, where 98 to 100% of the people are retired. And that's exciting. It's kind of like you have to ask the question, where do I go from here? So if you own a house right now or wherever you're living, you're like, well, what's my next step as I age? Am I going to be able to take care of wherever I am? And if you're in a house, that's a lot to take care of. And so your question is, where do I go from here? And so there's a lot of different options. And the option of going to a retirement community is one of the options.
Well, we're going to talk about 2 in particular, Del Webb and the Villages. Del Webb is throughout the country. My aunt and uncle chose to move there in the Chicago area many, many years ago.
Yeah, and my parents had looked in the Tucson area many, many years ago.
And they bought a brand new home. It was brand new, whatever year that was. I don't even know if it was the 80s, 90s. I don't remember. They've been gone for a while now. But they were always active in the Chicago area, had lots of friends because they went to the same schools their entire lives, didn't move. They had friends for 50 years. And they moved into Del Webb, and they were surprisingly unhappy with it.
Yeah, I mean, Del Webb has a long reputation of the place to be. It was the only place for retired people for a long time.
But it wasn't Del Webb. It wasn't Del Webb the corporation they were unhappy with. It was just the
Right.
whole concept of a retirement community.
Well, which can be good for some people, but you have to also remember that you're in an area with all older people and the people are going to die off.
So this Del Webb was way, way, way out from Chicago because my belief is Del Webb Corporation bought the land very cheaply and they were isolated. They were in the middle of nowhere. So your whole life is there at Del Webb, which it should have everything. They had a nice 2-bedroom house, 2 baths, and plenty of room for the 2 of them. But once they moved in, my aunt said she couldn't make friends. Somebody who's very social, very outgoing, very bubbly, could not make friends.
Yeah, I mean, that's tough. It's tough when you're a stranger in a new area. It is tough to make friends. And that's a consideration.
Well, this is a community that I believe is 55 and up. And she said everybody was in cliques, and it was just like going back to high school that they didn't feel welcomed.
Right.
And I don't know if she had started having health problems at this time. She did get to the point where she couldn't walk. Now, my uncle actually, I believe they still had their dog, and he would take the dog out and walk. So his job had been a gas meter reader. So he walked miles his whole career. I mean, they both lived to 90. It was amazing. But he took the dog out and walked, but she didn't get out, and she felt lonely and isolated.
Yeah, and that's sad, but that's unfortunate part of getting older and starting over, making new friends in a new area, and that's what really keeps people living in the area that they've always stayed in, even though it's hard to upkeep their house or wherever they're living. And that's difficult. That's difficult thing to come to grips with.
I was shocked when she told me that it was hard to make friends because she was the most outgoing person I ever knew. She talked nonstop,
Yeah.
and I thought, if you can't make friends, how would we ever make friends?
Right.
But now I don't know how much effort she put into it, since she had friends for her entire life since kindergarten. So I don't know if she made a strong effort to make friends. She wasn't athletic, and I don't know. They have probably board games or puzzle night or
Right.
whatever, different activities that she could have joined. And I guess she was probably starting to have health problems at this point.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a similar thing with my parents and why they didn't pull the trigger on a house in Del Webb in Tucson is that it was way out from the city, and I think my parents came to the realization of how are we going to make friends. You know, we don't know anybody. This is another part of the country. We lived in Philadelphia. So this was another part of the country, and you know that was difficult. Unfortunately, my dad got sick around that time and ended up passing away a year later.
At what, 56?
Yeah.
Very young age.
So, you know, there's a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. So we've been researching an area called the Villages in Florida. And was a very popular area. I think it still is. You know, it's very costly to live there, but everything is self-contained. All the businesses that you would shop at, and you know, the people. I mean, you can make friends, and you know, you can make friends anywhere if you're outgoing enough. There's cliques everywhere with older communities. Older communities where retired people live. And you could get in that clique too. It's probably not as easy as you would think, but it's just like if you were to move into a new neighborhood, you know, and you know, you wanted to make friends.
Well, I think it's not as costly as you think. I think you could buy affordable houses there. But what would be costly in Florida is that the insurance is going up tremendously in Florida, insurance and property taxes. But the houses themselves, I think, are pretty reasonable. I think there's a huge number for sale now because the Villages have almost 80,000 people living there. They span over 3 counties. They've been building there for, I don't know, do you know how many years?
No,
I mean, decades.
It's been a long time.
Decades, yeah. So originally, I think when they first started, it was the dream
Right.
for everybody through
It's
the whole
where
country.
you wanted to live.
Yeah, you wanted to retire with your pension and go to the Villages. It was a dream, and they were very affordable long ago. Today, they're a little bit more costly, especially Florida in particular. Florida only gained a very small percent or number of people. I've seen very low numbers on how the growth of Florida because more people are leaving with the insurance, with all the weather,
Yeah,
and
The insurance
HOA.
is crazy. The insurance not only for your house but your car, you know, health insurance.
But
I think food costs are also
well,
skyrocketing.
that's crazy for everybody, food and gas. But we've thought about the Villages. We've thought about it seriously, and there was. I mean, they market it very well. There's so many activities. There's so many. There's concerts, music every night. There's every sport you can imagine, which we're not big sports people. So for us, we like to travel. We like to hike. We like being close to our family. We like to play games. So for us, I don't like the location of Florida that is so limited
Right.
to go on day trips to other states. Being in Atlanta, we can go to South Carolina, maybe North Carolina. We could go down. Florida is more than a day trip. Alabama, yeah. For just a day trip, we could go to all these states, or just a couple of days, a 3 or 4 day trip. The Villages are located 1 hour from Orlando.
And if you know, Orlando is about 8 hours from the border of Georgia.
I don't know if it's 8, it might be 6, but it's a good drive. It's not really a 1 or 2 day drive.
Yeah.
So to me, that was the biggest deterrent because we would like to take some short trips. We like to hike. There's not a lot of hiking in Florida.
There's a lot of swamps
And alligators.
and alligators.
And it's very hot. So for me, I can't handle the heat. So it would be challenging to live in Florida. We've been there many times in August for crazy reasons that we went over summer. So Florida's not a good place to travel. It's hot more often than it's not. So it doesn't meet our requirements of I like to walk, hike. The 2 dogs would struggle there. So Florida, the state as a whole, didn't appeal. We're not big Disney people. So Disney's in the middle of the state. We're not big Disney people. It's a fortune to go there. Although if you're a resident of Florida, you do get reduced prices. So for our hobbies and interests, it's not for us. But looking at the retirement aspect, why would we not want to live in a community that's 70,000 in Florida? So why? As a retirement community, say the Villages were in Tennessee, why would we not want to live in the Villages, say in Tennessee?
Well, the statistics show that in the Villages, it's 98% white and Caucasian. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? But we do like some diversity. We live in Atlanta, and there's a lot of diversity. So, giving up that diversity, that it means a lot. We like the different viewpoints. We like talking to different people, and so that's one of the drawbacks for us in living in a place like the Villages.
Well, when you lose the diversity, you lose those special holidays, those events that they have festivals and things you can go to where they have different foods and get-togethers. So that's just, we like to learn from everybody and see how other people live. So that's a big thing, is losing the diversity. Florida is a state tax-free state, so that is a plus, but Georgia allows $65,000 per person over 65 to deduct your income. So if we each had 65,000, which we don't, that'd be 130 deduction plus your standard deduction. So Georgia is a pretty tax-friendly state as well, but Florida is totally tax-free. But I'm not sure if you bring your income in from another state. Like when my family moved to Tennessee when I was in high school, my father learned that even though Tennessee is tax-free, he didn't earn his income in Tennessee, so he had to pay taxes. So I don't know about Florida. You might have to pay taxes on your income from another state. I don't know about that. So the biggest negative was we don't like the location of Florida, and the Villages is not diverse. But other things are, if you have 70,000 people of 55 and up and limited medical facilities, you may have great difficulty getting a doctor's appointment. I saw a video somebody made where their wife got very sick living in the Villages, and he had to drive for an hour to Orlando. Now, if you're having a stroke or heart attack, you may not have an hour. So with all that huge number of boomers living there, you may be pressed to find doctors. I'm finding right now with my health conditions that I have a 6-week wait for most doctors in Georgia, in Atlanta. 6-week wait to see most of my doctors since I was just diagnosed with a health condition. And so I just imagine if we moved to the Villages, it would be that much more challenging to get doctor's appointments.
Sure. Any place that you're going to live where there's a limited amount of hospitals or doctors within the proximity of the subdivision, or whatever you want to call it, that you live, it's going to be a long wait. And you have to think about that as part of wherever you move, is what kind of wait is there going to be to see a doctor or to get into a hospital or to get admitted in an emergency room. I'm sure there's urgent care, but urgent care can only do so much, and they're going to tell you to go to the ER, and the ER is not going to be able to take care of you in a fast amount of time.
That was the one reason we did not want to move to a tiny home. Most of those are in rural areas, and the proximity or lack of medical care was a big reason we did not want to move to a tiny community. So this is kind of similar with the Villages. This is becoming a nationwide problem that many people don't have access to doctors. My siblings who live in smaller towns than we do are saying how they're having challenging times going to doctors. Already we have a 6-week wait. They say that a lot of doctors are retiring and just gone. So they have to drive maybe to Atlanta, who my one sister lives hours, at least an hour and a half from Atlanta. So she might have to drive to Atlanta. This has become an issue nationwide as hospitals are closing and doctors' offices are closing. So it's not just an issue with where you live.
Right. And so, you have to take all that in consideration as you're aging. You want to age joyfully, and it's hard to age joyfully when you have a need for medical attention and you can't get it in a quick enough time.
Also, to me, the huge size of the villages at 70,000, it seems like it would probably be even harder to make friends. I think when my aunt and uncle moved to the Del Webb, it was nowhere near that size. I don't know how many people live in Del Webb. I have no idea. I would say maybe 2 or 3 or 5,000. I don't really know. But if she can make friends with a small area, how are you going to make friends in this huge conglomerate of 70,000 people? I think it'd be really, really challenging to make friends. So, and then again, I think Stephen mentioned that everybody is 55 and up, so they have health conditions and they are dying. That would be kind of depressing as you're living there, that people were always sick and starting to die.
Right, right. And that's just, that person who you played pickleball with last week may not be playing pickleball with you this week. So that can be, depressing.
Well, I know I have 7 siblings, and even among us, we're starting to have health issues, and our group texts are becoming a little bit sad because somebody's always has an illness or there's a death in the family. So just within our little group, our family group, it's kind of sad to hear all this news. So I couldn't imagine you hearing it every day that somebody down the road passed away or the next block over passed away. That would be very, very sad and kind of challenging to live with, to hear that over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, as you get older, you definitely want to continue to look at the bright side of life. Even though you have to face reality, you do want to look at the bright side of life. And that's what keeps you, or helps to keep you healthy, is that you have this better perspective, kind of a happy kind of perspective on life. And that, tends to keep you healthy.
I mean, there are some advantages. You can get close to some of the neighbors and have somebody to take care of your pets when you do go to the hospital, or look over your house when you go on vacation. So there are some advantages. You are going to be with people your own age, so you're going to have a lot in common with those people.
Yeah, and that means a lot. It means a lot. I'm not saying it's all bad, about living in, a retirement community. There are good spots to it, just not for us. But we still have the question, where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here?
Yeah, where do we go from here?
So we've ruled out tiny homes, apartments, and retirement communities. What's left?
Well, I'm really thinking that there's cruise ships that you can live on year by year. There's also, cabins, in different places, motels, hotels. But, it's an open question.
We're still researching it, so we'll keep you up to date,
Yep.
and we'll try to make the videos on Steve's medical crisis for Saturday.
Yeah, but I am okay. Okay, I am okay.
He's doing great. Doing great.
That's right.
Until we see you again.
Take it easy.